Okay, segment 57, just one more segment. Well, we're seven
Nick, is
segments
David
on
ready to
the
go?
second half of things. So it's framing and selling of deliverable table numbers. That's interesting, isn't it?
Right.
The description
Right, Keith, we're
itself.
going to fire over now because David's going to be ready for us.
I'm just quickly do the description and then you're going to go now.
Ready to go now.
Well, let's go.
There's
Let's
a
go.
big
And then you
delay
can
for that.
explain.
All right,
Okay,
here we go.
Here we go.
Here we
Right,
go.
enjoy, guys.
Over to you guys.
We've been waiting on you.
That's it, you're live.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Mahoney with Balloons Every Day. Oh. Good. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Mahoney with Balloons Every Day. This is my lovely wife, Amanda. We're here today to talk to you all about table numbers and pliable framing and stuff like that. It's been some amazing talent that's gone on before us and stuff like that, but we want to try to give something that we do every single day here in our shop to try to give everybody the opportunity to be prepared for the future. So when after this coronavirus passes us by, all of us are in the position to take our businesses to the next level and stuff like that. A little bit about us. Balloons Every Day has been around for 23 years. We have a staff of 18. We have a small fleet of vans. We're small meaning like 9. We have vehicles on the road every single day. We've gone 2 years where we've done at least one job every single day. We normally, on a slow week, do between 80 and 100 orders, and then about roughly 4,000 or so jobs a year. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Until the coronavirus.
Until the coronavirus. Now we're doing 0. So that's the crazy world we live in. So I appreciate everybody taking the time and logging on and watching us, and hopefully when we finish up here, if you see something maybe that you've not experienced or understood. When it comes to framing, I know a lot of people are intimidated by it. They've never seen it or they're not certain what materials. We're going to show the things we use in our shop. So hopefully, if you have questions, try to put them in the feed. We'll try to catch them as we go. There'll be a couple times during our class here as we're building things. We'll have more time to answer as you watch us doing stuff. We'll try to answer it and stuff like that. So what we're hoping is that you get used to understanding pliable metals or pliable materials, that you have the confidence to use those materials to help your company grow, and just more knowledge about our company and what we do and how we succeed.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
So,
and everything that we're doing here, not only does Dave do, but I do too. So
yes.
Don't get scared because we're talking about framing and things like that.
Right. And again, we do get questions a lot about people asking about the large yard numbers. Oh, I can't talk. This is something we feel happens before. I know a lot of people like the large yard numbers, but the thing about it is you have to have a foundation. You have to have a beginning. You have to have a knowledge of why things happen or how to do them effectively. So that's what this class is about. And the great thing about table numbers and things like that, it's something that everybody can do regardless of who you are and where you're at, what type of vehicle you have and stuff like that. So we're having some technical difficulty here, so I apologize by that. Amanda's glitched on us. So table framing and the number, the material we're going to work with today. We're going to work with aluminum rod, which is what we typically use in our shop. This is 1/4-inch aluminum rod. Another material we use a lot is PVC pipe, 1/2-inch PVC pipe. And then copper tubing. We don't use copper tubing a whole lot, but it's a good material if you don't have access to aluminum rod and stuff like that. It bends easily. It's a little more expensive. Some places call it plumber's piping and stuff like that. It's easy to find and stuff. As you can see, Amanda keep bumping into the frame here. She's trying to fix some technical sides on our end. So copper piping is a good thing if you don't have access to aluminum rod or PVC. So we go from there and start going forward. If you can, why don't you go get my notes? See, you just messed with me. Lots of technical difficulties. Yesterday we found out our modem wasn't working here at the shop, so we've been scrambling around to try to get things taken care of. I apologize for this, people, but it is live, so good news. So let's talk about why a lumen rod. A lumen rod is very rigid. It's easy to bend with your hands, you know, and it holds its shape really, really well up to about 4 feet. A lot of people use lumen rod in larger sculptures as far as competition pieces. We find up to 4 or 5 feet. It holds its rigidity very well. Copper piping is easier to bend. It just doesn't hold up well after about 3 feet and stuff like that. So you'll have to figure out what works best for you. And then PVC works really well, but there's a trick to PVC because it's considered a rigid frame to begin with. And the problem with PVC is you'll have to have another technique to work with PVC, and we'll discuss that. Tools we're going to use today, we're going to use a bolt cutter to cut our pipe and stuff like that. We're going to use, you can use a hacksaw if you don't have a bolt cutter. You can also use an EMT cutter. A lot of people know these and have them already in their toolboxes and stuff like that. For PVC, we use a ratchet PVC cutter just because it makes it life easy. We're going to use duct tape. That's one nice thing about pliable metals and stuff like that. There's not really much you have to do to get them to secure together to work with and stuff like that. Some people also use zip ties. We're not going to use that for today's purposes. And then a vice grip. This vice grips help a lot in areas where you don't have enough hand strength or you're looking to try to get a more precise bend and stuff like that. Just like with everything, when you frame it, you're going to have to secure it or weight it. So we're going to deal with two items that everybody knows, knot lamps. You can get them at Walmart and you can get them at IKEA. They're about anywhere, I think, between $9 and $11.
Right.
It's kind of expensive, especially considering if we use a knot lamp, we basically hack off all but 4 inches and the rest of it just becomes waste. And in between $9 and $11 on cost. The problem with that conversation is that it eats up our bottom line as far as profitability. Everybody knows Dave loves his bases. So we're going to show this technique today of how to make a base because I think it's one of the fundamentals. And this is about 60 cents to $1. And we'll talk about that more. And then the last thing that you need, or that we use all the time, is a template. I'm going to show you the one that we use here at the shop. We use this template, which we made, but we're going to show everybody how to make their own templates. I know you can see the lines because of the camera, but we'll explain how to build this template for you guys and stuff like that. So that way you can do it. Why use a template? We produce a lot of jobs and we have a big staff. And so the consistency in frame is key to success as far as consistently producing things and producing them fast. We always have frame pre-built. So when someone calls, we can quickly flip it over and stuff like that. Why framing?
Well, and another thing with the grid and having a template is you can have anybody do it. So
Correct.
It doesn't have to be Dave or it doesn't have to be me. We have a full staff. Every staff member can sit there with the template and go out and make the table number or the large frame or whatever kind of frame. We use the grid that we use just so we try to keep everything we do consistent from person to person.
Right. And if you have frame that you've made in a past job and you can match it with a new frame, that builds you a little bit of diversity and the ability to blend frame versus everything being slightly off and everything like that. And a lot of the sizes and stuff that we use, people say, why is that? I think ultimately we just stumbled on recipes or sizes that work best for us as a shop. They work well for our vehicles. That consistency, that's why we build a 4-foot table number and 10-foot frame yard numbers and stuff like that. Why frame? Well, everybody knows that if it's on a frame, well, I don't know if everybody knows.
Nope.
No. One of the things we do in our shop is we pre-blow all our balloons ahead of time, and they sit in a corner until right before the event, which may be a week or 10 days sometimes, depending on the weather and stuff like that, all bagged up. And then when we get closer to the event, we then put it on the frame. So they're long lasting. Once they're on the frame, same conversation, you bag it back up, it'll last a long time. Now, granted, obviously stuff like 160s and 260s and things like that aren't going to hold up the same, but this builds on the opportunity to build jobs well ahead of time, because let's be honest, everybody's going to get a little tighter as far as the money they have in the bank and the labor dollars they can put towards things.
Right. And the more that you can build ahead of time, that frees you up to do more stuff.
Correct. And another thing about frame, it's stable. It's hard. You know, you can shove it in and out of a vehicle. And again, we learned this because we have a large staff. They'll shove it in and out of a vehicle and not pay much attention to it. And then what happens is it's more stable and stuff like that. And lastly, it's really cost effective. That's a big part of our mantra here at Balloons Every Day. We try our best to try to make sure that we're effective and cost effective, because that's really what's allowed us to grow to the size that we are. But it's also allows us to, you know, to basically give clients to meet their expectations, basically, right?
Correct.
I mean, because when you know something's stable and you know something's going to last a long time and you're able to pre-build it before showing up, it allows the ability for you to satisfy that customer's needs and know it's going to last a long time. They're going to be impressed. They're going to, granted, customers keep it way too long.
Right. And also cost effective, it comes into, like, we use a lot of certain frames, not necessarily the table numbers over and over, because those we just drop off because it's not worth our time to go back and pick them up. But a lot of times, bigger sculptures in our large yard frames, we get them back. So cost effectively in that way, you're saving your time and money and resources on building them again.
Yeah, we have some yard numbers that have gone out 40, 50 times. And when you talk about $200 a whack every time it goes out the door, or 2 to 3, depending on double digits, stuff like that. These things. Now, granted, I don't want to talk too much about the yard numbers because that's what we're not discussing today.
No, we're doing table.
We're doing table numbers. So rigidity on the frame, stability, cost effective, and stuff like that. Now compare that, let's step back. Talk about why pliable framing is important to know versus hard framing. Now, for those, these are technical terms we use in our industry, and what we use in our shop, not our industry, in our shop. Hard framing is what we consider anything that's built out of a metal that's not pliable, like a conduit and stuff like that. This doesn't bend. You have to have
tools.
You have to have hard tools to make this stuff pliable and bend and get it where you want it to do. Pliable metals can be bent by hand or with minimal effort, like a vise or something like that. The large, hard framing, the pros to that, it's a heavier frame. It's reusable time and time again. The shortcoming of a hard frame is you can't get small details on a big frame. I don't want to use a large piece of conduit to get a tiny little 3. It would take me too much effort and energy to build that 3, whereas I could bend this out I can bend that out and finish it out in about 15 minutes, 10 minutes if I'm huffing
Brushing,
it. Yeah. There's no special skill set. You don't need to know how to weld on pliable metals. Typically duct tape, zip ties, and
you don't have to buy expensive equipment either.
You don't have to.
Metals.
Everybody can do this. If you have an EMT cutter, you're already in business. Now, I did want to point this vise out. I do like this vise because it's able to adapt to any work surface. It just tightens up and then it can connect. Versus if we can get camera 2 going, or camera 1, I guess. This is a flat vise we have here. If we can get that camera, Dom and Keith. We use in our shop what we call a flat vise that has to be hard mounted to the workstations and stuff like that. We're not able to. Let's see. You can't see it. We moved the camera. Can we zoom out, guys? Oh well, there it is.
There you go.
over here.
Hey.
This is a flat vise, and it has to be mounted on the workstation. So if you're limited in space and stuff like that, we can go back to the other camera, guys. Thank you. If you're looking, if you have a workstation, you can put a flat vise. I highly recommend them. They're worth their weight in gold. We use the 4-inch flat vise and stuff like that. If you don't have that ability, or you don't have a lot of space, these mountable vise work really well. They'll clip on pretty much any counter and stuff like that. Now don't put it on your marble counter and then yell at Dave when you break it.
Yeah.
That's not the counter. I'm talking working counters and stuff like that. So pliable metals, the benefits of pliable metals, it doesn't take a lot of expensive equipment. It's easy to do. Lightweight. It's fairly rigid. It's great for smaller designs.
Easy to put together.
Say again?
Easy. You can use couplings, zip
like
ties.
Again, if you're using PVC, there are bunches of couplings and connectors that you could already utilize and stuff like that.
Oopsie, here's another one.
That helps you bend and put pieces together, and so therefore, even in this scenario, you don't have to even bend. You can use the connectors that they sell at the regular hardware store and stuff like that. And that saves you even a little more work, whereas you're not going to have those same connectors for steel or conduit and stuff like that. Now, the shortcoming of pliable metals, it's not going to be able to be used for giant single sculptures like a 7 or a 9 or something like that's top heavy. You'll need something more rigid to hold that up. And it's not very suitable for outdoors. We don't sell any of our table designs for outdoors, and we have to let customers know that, because they'll try to sneak that in and tell us to put it outside. Good gust of wind, this wouldn't necessarily work. So talking about bases, I know the industry uses a lot of knot lamps. Difficulty I find in knot lamps, and just because I'm a little bit of a wig, I prefer to always have access to what I can do. And bricks are at every hardware store in the universe, whereas I got to go to IKEA to get a knot lamp. I probably shouldn't do it upside down. I don't know. Not bashing it, stuff like that. I just don't get the same price point, and I don't get the same flexibility. When we look at a base like this that we made out of a brick, the same technique to make this dollar base or 67-cent base is the same technique we use to make our bigger 25 and 100-pound bases and stuff like that. So, and again, if you look online to qualatex.com, this is the flyer. I've posted it for years. I know other people have their own versions of it and stuff like that. Sean and Steve Painter have their own versions of how they do it. But if you go to Qualatex Facebook page, you should be able to download that, and it'll explain it to you again if you forget after the class. I'm going to make one really quick because I like showing it to everybody, because I think fundamentals is a basic thing that we all should do or understand how to do. And again, you can't make a table number if you don't have something to put it into. So what we do, and I'm not going to do the hard part, we take a basic base, a brick base, we mark the center, and then we drill it. We drill it with a 1-inch mason bit. You can get this at pretty much most hardware stores. They're fairly inexpensive. We don't change the size of our mason bit based on the size of the base. We always drill 1-inch holes. Everybody's kind of slightly different. I know some people do it smaller so that they can basically save on glue. Glue is cheap. I prefer to waste glue, not time. Now, I know some people have had conversations with us in the past, have made the comment, they don't trust the glue. We literally do 300 to 400 bases a month in all different derivatives. We do thousands of jobs a year. When properly made, which the word properly only applies to how clean you get the hole, we've never had a problem. So what we do, okay, let me do this because I cut ahead. We drilled the hole in the base, and then I'm going to take it's called AC tape. You get it at the hardware store. It's about $30 a roll, but if you make bases like we do, it's a good investment. Why do we use AC tape? Because we're about to put hot glue in the hole, and I don't want to glue it to my floor or my countertop or anything in my house. So we cover the hole with the AC tape on the bottom. We put the base, we put it like that. We grab a glue gun. No. People always ask what glue gun we use. We get ours from Uline. They're fairly expensive, but they're extremely hot, and that's really one of the biggest tickets when it comes to these glue guns. We're going to fill up this hole 3/4 of the way with glue. We use the 15-inch glue sticks from Uline. It's about 1/4 a glue stick. You're going to use about 1 glue stick per base without trying. We're going to set that. Then we take our pipe, and then we're going to basically put that in there. And I'm going to take 2 torpedo levels, and I'm going to set it there on either side to make sure it is level, that the base is drying and everything like that. That takes about 1 minute for that to dry. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to keep talking, but if anybody has a question, we can answer those right now and kind of go through that. I don't need it. Yeah.
Any questions, Nick?
Those are questions for what materials we use for outside, if that's on an outside example. So people thought that was. And then a couple people were asking about what is the floor for the template made out of?
Okay, one at a time, Nick. I mean, we're good, but not that good. Okay, it's called table numbers. So again, if we're misunderstanding what we were building today, this is called table numbers. We specifically didn't do outdoor numbers because that takes a whole different skill set. And again, if we don't have the foundation or the beginning, there's no point. If you don't understand the concept of how to get a table number built, there's no point to show you how to build a yard number, because what's going to happen, and what happens for me as a company, I really, really try to avoid sharing stuff that I consider more advanced, especially in a platform where I'm not able to give every bit of information that I've taken 23 years to get. Because what I don't want to have happen in the industry is for people to jump out there, do something without the knowledge or the foundation, and underservice a client. You know, I'm not saying that it happens all the time and stuff like that, but I know how long and how many mistakes I made. And just like walking or reading or anything like that, there are stages I believe we all go through. I don't know that I believe it. I just think it's a fact.
I think so.
You know, so this is where we feel the foundation of where we start, because this builds on top of everything. Using the grid system helps you scale up your designs to what your needs are. But if you just walk in and start with outdoors, there's a whole new dynamics to that this will not cover in an hour and a half. That's more like a day class kind of thing.
Yeah, you gotta come visit Dave.
We get enough people already.
I think another question was, what size pipe is it? This is a 1/4 inch aluminum rod.
To do also enough that it doesn't need, there's not a special tool that's need to bend it. What else we got, Nick?
They were also asking about the material for the board.
We're going to use foam core in our class today. This we laser etched onto MDF board and stuff like that we use inside our shop because we use it so much. But we're going to use foam core today to teach the template and stuff like that. That's fairly readily available. You can get it at any home craft store, or you can get it at a sign supply company like we do, and stuff like that. So, all right. So it takes about a minute. Once it's cooled, after about a minute, we're going to do what we call in our shop as a topper, where we just lather the top part of it with lots and lots of glue. Trick on making any bases, whether it's a table base or whether it's a big base. You want your glue gun to be super hot. So when you're making your bases, if your glue is not hot, buy multiple guns. That's how I used to do it, and we still do it. We have 12 of the Uline guns, and if anybody's on uline.com right now looking at the guns and shocked at the price, we literally line up 12 of those when we make bases. And as soon as the grip starts to get a little tight, we stop using that gun, we move to the next gun. You want your glue as hot as it can possibly be. And then you also want that hole, when you drill, you want to clean out that hole. You want to blow it out with an air compressor or whatever. So that way the glue has great contact. And like I said, we make hundreds of those bases all day long. So what other question you got, Nick?
They were asking about the size brick and size pipe.
The base when we do these is a 6-inch brick and it's a 1/2-inch pipe. So that's what we use in our shop. We use a lot of the same.
And it's 6-inch tall.
Yeah, the pipe is 6-inch tall. And a lot of the things that we do in our shop, we try to eliminate the need for a lot of odd materials. We don't buy different things. We go through a ton of 1/2-inch conduit. That's one reason we use that. Now, when you're making the big bases for like arches and columns and stuff, if you're making this size base, you're going to use the 3/4-inch pipe. And the reason we use the 3-inch quarter, we glued it in, is that the 1/2-inch fits on the inside. So like if this was an archway, it would just fit inside and stuff like that. If this was a sculpture, a stork or something like that, it would just fit inside. And that's how we do that. So, okay? All right, so now we're going to show how to make our template. Dom, Keith, can you all show slide number 9? That's perfect. What you see in this slide here is something we shared with it. This is the grid and the same wood that we use here of our template that we make all the time. And I'm going to show you how we do that. It's scalable. So, and we're going to show and explain how we normally do that. But this is how we make our table numbers, not our yard, our table numbers all the time. So what we do is we take a projector and we basically take a, and you can't see it, we take an acetate of this. So you just print it out and then put it on an acetate. You can use a projector, anything that will project up. So they even make out little projectors now that plug into your phone and stuff like that. And basically we'll put it on the projector and we'll project it up to the size that we want. And so if we want a 3-foot number, we want a 4-foot number. Again, after 4 foot, I highly recommend you look at maybe looking at a more rigid material like a PVC. Once you get past that, you want to really start considering a different class to teach that. Now, no matter what we do and how we project it up, we just trace it. Now, I apologize because this is live TV, and our projector just literally went out. And we have bulbs, always have extra bulbs. Problem is, I don't know where the crew put the bulbs. So,
and being that, we're all on shutdown, there's no crew around. So
there's no crew and there's no run into the store to pick up an extra bulb and stuff like that. So when this actually is our template that we used to use before the wood templates. I swear to God, this is the template we used for years. It's made out of foam core. It's easy to use. We just, again, moved to the wood templates because we got tired of having to make them and trace them and stuff like that. So what we would do is project up. This circle here is 19 inches. What I recommend and what the crew does is we just cut a 19-inch circle. We draw our grid lines, and then we slap that in the center, and we draw around, okay? And that way we have the marks. And what this does for us, and I'm going to leave this up here as we talk about it because it's a little easier. This way, if we're building a number 5, we have our start marks, and then we follow the grids and stuff like that. And you'll notice that it comes down here. You'll notice on the paper that we gave you there's some dotted lines. So on the 5 and the 4, the only two that kind of are variables. So they're marked on this grid for you. But what you're going to do is follow the lines and then follow that pattern and stuff like that. And this will tell you where to start, where to bend, and stuff like that. So your frame is consistent. Do we have any questions on that? And it shows you everything like the 5, the 7, where to cut the 1, where to cut the 2s. You know, the grid, if we're making a 9, it's going to start here, it's going to go up, it's going to go around, and it's going to come back, and then it's going to duct tape here. If we're making a 6, you know, the 6 is going to come down, around, it's going to bend down, and then we put the second support piece here, it's going to go there. And if we do like a 4, it's going to go down, over, and then this piece goes here. And so this grid has all the measurements and everything for you and stuff like that. It has all the spots where you start and where you mark from. Again, Keith and Dom, they have it. We'll load it up also in Qualatex Facebook page, so it'll be there too. And then again, if there's any questions, you know, I can answer anything, you know, online and stuff like that. Doing a live feed's kind of a little harder to do that. So does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. Anything? So sorry about the projector. Works a lot better when the projector works. Doesn't work today. Okay. So we're going to build a frame. So I'm going to build a 5 for everybody, and then I'm going to show it. I'm going to do it on the grid. Should I do it on the foam grid?
No, I'd do it on this.
Okay. We're gonna start off now. Lumen rod, just so you know, our lumen rod comes in 12-foot sticks. Okay. The thing with the sticks is that they're long, so you have to be certain when you're working with them that you have the space. We have found over time that we can pre-cut our pieces to the size we want. If anybody's interested in that, you can get our workbook at balloondvds.com. You can go on there and it'll give the recipes and how everything is built and stuff like that. But honestly, let's be honest, I didn't have the workbook. I've been doing this 23 years.
We just created it.
Yeah, we just created it. The template is, and we didn't even have the start and stop marks until just recently. I would just build whatever I needed based on this grid. But I have so much crew, I had to eventually make recipes. So do you see me keep touching my face with the coronavirus? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good thing it's just
so this is what I used for years, and then after time, I found it was easier to make it simpler for crew. And there's actually a workbook. Oh, there's a pliable metal workbook we created to teach our crew how to do it, and stuff like that, which was helpful. Like I said, balloondvd.com has that. If you're interested, it does cost money. I'm not gonna lie. Web is not cheap, but you don't need it. So we're going to make a frame. If they can give me camera 1 or 2, whatever they call it, where we do the top view, I'm going to make a 5 for you guys so you can see it actually being made. The nice thing is, this has got to go this way. That stuff can all go.
Okay.
So on my grid, this is my number 5 mark. So I'm going to go from number 5 to this point on the grid. Okay. And so this spot right here. Oh, we're going to mark, Amanda's going to mark it. She's better than me. So we're going to take that and we bend that at a 45-degree angle. That's about as hard as that got right there.
90 degrees.
90 degrees. Oh, see, 45. I'm twice as good. So as you can see, Amanda's cleaning off my table really fast. She was supposed to be my Vanna, but it's kind of taking us a moment. Okay, so I came down, I bent my 90, and then I'm going to go to this part where in the grid it shows that I want to get this arc. And what we find on like a number 5, and the reason I'm making a 5 is a slightly different frame than like a 3 or an 8 because the top is heavy and it has a cantilever effect. I need something that kind of goes up so that it supports the frame once all the balloons are on it. So just like Amanda did a minute ago, I'm going to mark it just because I want to be as good as her. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to bend it like that. Now, as you bend frame, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. The one nice thing about everything we do in our industry is that balloons are very forgiving. So if my frame is slightly off or a little callywhopped and stuff like that, the balloons are going to cover most of that. So as I build frame, I take my thumb and I basically bend a little at a time. And I'm just going to keep bending and bending and bending. I'm basically moving about an inch, okay? And then I'm going to keep bending. I want to make, I can make it too tight because I can pull it out. I have more luck. See, like I can bend it too tight, but then if I go to open it, it gives me a softer edge versus trying to bend it perfectly, you know, when I first bend it. Everybody does that slightly different. This works a little bit better when I'm on my actual workstation versus this tight workstation. Okay? So as you can see, I'm going to just bend it back and forth. Now again, as I said, as Amanda stated before, she bends this frame too. So when we go along and we want to clean it up, like see how it comes here and then it bends too far there, that's where I'm going to bend it back out. And I ain't got enough room on my table. Yeah. There we go. I need a bigger work table. So, okay. So now, if some of you just saw what I did, the frame was bending up like this. So I took it and I just bent the axis back and pushed it down. You can use your whole body. You can use any technique. There is no wrong or right. There's not a, you know, oh, that's not how it gets made. However you build your frame is what counts because it's a matter of making money and selling and providing that service to your clients. You know, it's better that it be what you do, not be what I do. I know some people are like, oh, it's not as good as yours. People say that, don't they?
Yeah, we get that a lot.
And honestly, if it's your client, they don't know me. So it doesn't matter whether it's as good as mine. And I'm not saying that because I'm arrogant, like, you know, Dave Mahoney's the best. You know, but the truth of it is you want to service your clients and you want to take care of them. And something is better than nothing because the truth of it is after the coronavirus, we're all going to have to pivot and change gears and try to figure out new ways to make money and stuff like that. It's going to be different for all of us. Again, we went from the phone's ringing every day, the phone's not ringing at all, you know, because basically the government said we can't do nothing. So as you can see, I'm just following that line on that grid. And then when I overbend, I just pull it back out. And I always make sure that I stay on this point where I started and stuff like that. Now, when we do our frames, when we pre-cut it, it's always going to be slightly longer. So if my frame is not exactly perfect, I know at the end I can cut it and adjust it. Correct?
Yeah.
Now I don't want to go past this point here, so I don't want to get, as I start to get closer, I don't want to go too crazy. And you can see it's not perfect. I'm not bending it in one smooth swoop like in some impressive, like Dave Mahoney's incredible. I do a little at a time and then I fix what I mess up. And I just always check, I keep checking back at the beginning. Is there any questions so far?
We've had people ask what size is the board that you're using.
It's 47 inches by 26 inches. I
Yeah,
believe.
47 by 26. Again, as we stated before, we just use foam core. Again, you can see it's the same, you know.
And we've also had people ask would it help if you were to take a lot of further bending it.
No, because I always take it up and down because I'm not very smart.
We need to repeat.
The question was, would it be more helpful to tape the board down? No, because most of the time when people have not bent frame, they'll get callywhopped, and their frame is going to do this. See where the frame sticks up? And if it's taped down, you got to take it off to adjust it. So, okay. So,
you're getting there.
I'm getting there.
You're going to show how to use the vice.
Okay. So, when you put frame in, when you do table frame and stuff like that, you got to get it to stay in the base that we just made. Okay. Now, instead of bringing this all the way around and making this tail part, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to bend it here at the tip or the center point of the frame. And then that way I build almost a cross support in the bottom of the base to help hold it up more rigidly. So I sure do like these boards.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is my center line on all my numbers and stuff like that, unless again it's a 9 or a 7, which would be on the outside. So, or N4. So I marked my center, and I'm going to go to my vise. Let's see if I can get you all on the vise. I can't bend this 90 well with my hands, so that's where we use a vise. We put it in the vise like this. Hold that in right there. And then I'm going to just pull it this way. Okay. And then you can see it comes in and goes center. And then I'm just going to tweak it slightly because it kind of tilted up. And then I'm going to bend one more piece. And then I'm going to adjust everything to be the proper size. So this is my tail piece. It's going to be the piece that goes here. And there's no logic or no, there's no like, how do you begin it perfectly or anything like that. What I typically do is I'm going to put in my vise and get those first couple inch where I can get the bend in the vise, because I don't have the hand strength. I don't know many people that would, to get this corner bent here. So I start that off in the vise to where I can get enough pipe. I still need a little bit more. I apologize that the camera doesn't.
There you go.
How about that?
For just a second. Yeah.
So I put it in the vise and I just bend it a little at a time. Okay. And you can see, and I just work it that way. Okay. Till I can get enough of it bent.
Now you got to move that camera back.
Yeah. I got to move camera, people. Sorry.
There you go.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm looking for it to start me off because I can't get that tight of a bend. Once I get enough in there that I can start bending it with my hands, I'll start working it. Again, I always overdo and then I adjust out. And I'm just using the board so I can get the pressure to push down, you know, to where it helps bends it flat. You can see how it's coming.
And we had a workshop here back in January, and we taught this with some of the local people. And there were a lot of women here that were doing this. We had part of the workshop.
We had 27 here.
So using the vise and finding things where you can use leverage is the key to being able to do some of these parts that look like that he may be struggling a little bit with his hands.
Right. And again, everybody in that class walked out with a frame. They all made several.
There were lots of people that made 8s, and that's a hard part to bend and a harder number, but they all accomplished it. So it's definitely everything that we're teaching you today, you can definitely do.
Okay. So and there I'm just using the edge of the table because I overbent too far. So I use the edge of the table to bend this part back straight. So I'd overbent that. If you rewind the video, you'll see my mistakes. So we're going to mark here where it bends. And then I'm going to put it back on the vise. See if I can get the vise. There it is. There's my bend right here.
You gotta go forward.
Gotta go that way.
Yep.
Right. I put that to the edge of the vise, and then I basically bend it 90 degrees. I'm doing this backwards for the camera. Normally I'd pull it towards myself, but I would do it opposite if I was pulling it towards myself. So I pulled it, and then that gave me my 90. Make sense? Now, we're going to set that there. Let me move the camera back. Okay.
Yep.
So as you can see, the two pieces come here. They butt up against each other and stuff like that. Now, what we want to do on any of our numbers and frames is build a support piece that bridges the two together so that it doesn't sandwich when it's sitting, okay? So I'm going to quickly do that. I'm not going to move the camera again. Well, should I?
Take this long.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to do that quickly in the vise, and I'm just moving it about a ½ inch, bending it a little where I can get that radius I'm looking for. Nick, anybody got any questions?
We've had people ask, what if the rod is too short? Would it be too short?
If you cut the rod too short, you're gonna have to start it.
Yeah, you'll have to start it, again. If you honestly, I think it's 84 inches on a number 5. Yeah, it's 84 inches on a number 5.
For the first.
For the big piece, that was 84 inches. And then for this piece, it was 20 inches. And the support pieces is always 8. So, I mean.
And this is the book that he's talking about. It has all each number, what the length of the pipes are,
The
And we
balloon
always
count.
put like extra length on there, a couple extra inches for, bending purposes and stuff. So that is on that balloondvds.com, so you can buy that booklet. But that's all that information.
But you don't have to.
No,
Again,
you don't.
I didn't use it for years. I used to have the 12-foot piece stick out there and whack family in the face and hit crew. And I mean, you don't have to.
No.
Again, I used to build these long before crew with just one stick of aluminum rod and would pace it out, and then it would just wind up at the end being what it was going to be. So you don't have to. And again, if you build a set or build a number, if you build a 5, and
it could be your pattern. It doesn't have to be the size that we do. It can be whatever pattern you come up with.
You can measure your stuff then. Okay, so you don't have to. Now I'm going to give you a trick on duct tape. We don't need to move the camera, but we use a ton of duct tape in our shop. And the thing on duct tape is most effective when it's used as smooth as possible. Flat. So if you're duct taping and it looks like a wadded piece of paper, you're not utilizing the strength of duct tape. Duct tape is strongest when it's flat. So how much duct tape do we use? Enough to make sure it doesn't mess up.
Yeah.
Duct tape is now.
Cut this first?
I'm going to do these first.
Remember, you're going to cut it?
No, I'm going to cut it at the end.
Cut it at the end.
I can cut it now if you want. You want to cut now?
Well, if you cut it now, it'll be easier to.
If that's what you want. Amanda wants to cut it now. So we're going to cut now. Okay. She says it's easier on her. Do you want to show everybody your cutting skills?
My cutting skills.
So show you how. This is a small handy bolt cutter. See how she uses the leverage of the table to push down and get the strength of it and stuff like that. You don't have to be very strong. That literally, you can just put your weight into it. And if you got a good new bolt cutter, it'll cut easily. The thing I like about this bolt cutter is that it transforms into a tiny little bolt cutter, which fits nicely in my tool bag. Yes, I know. I love all my toys. Okay, so Amanda cutted that. Apparently, you don't have to speak English to be good at the balloon business. Okay, so I start on the bottom. I put my duct tape down, and then I take and I wrap over. Again, I want this to be as smooth or as flat as possible, and that allows me to get that first bit of duct tape down like that, and then I can wrap it around like that. Okay, I'm not going to put a lot of duct tape because it still has to fit in our base. Okay, and then our support piece sits right here, and this allows for it not to sandwich on us later. Again, I slide it under a little bit, about a 1/4 inch, and then I'll pull that up and over. You want this snug and tight. You can do a little more duct tape on the sides than you did on the bottom, just for the simple fact that it doesn't matter because it's not going in a base. And then what I'm going to do here, I have a little duct tape left over. I'm just going to add it in just to make sure I'm nice and tight. Now, when we make our table numbers, we blow all our balloons to 4 inches. So if you're like, what size should the balloons be? This is one situation where I think 4 inches is best. Okay? So if I've done my job right, I'm going to add in one more. You can put both pieces of pipe, aluminum rod in this shaft here into the base, but it makes it slightly sloppy. So we tape in one more piece, so there's 3 pieces. And this is where you want to be careful not to add too much tape because it won't fit in your base. if you have a 1/2 inch shaft. So, okay. Now, again, same template I always used for years. You know, nothing fancy, foam core, stuff like that. And then we take it, we set it on our base, it just slides in. We duct tape this, we'll duct tape this to the base before we pack it. That way it secures it so a customer doesn't pick it up and falls off, because you don't want that conversation, you know, how a customer broke their foot. And so what we do here is we'll tape over and secure that this way. And then we'll tape around it to make sure that tape doesn't come off. And we'll wrap our bases in plastic bunting, table cover. You get it at any party store supply, stuff like that. And that way it just looks nice and you can cover it. And if we did this, if you want to see it, this is what the number 5 looks like finished. Okay. You can see we wrap the base here. We just typically, we don't use the same complementary colors because typically it could make a number look weird. Like if this was covered in a robin's egg and it was a number 4 and number 9, it might make the scale or the scope look different and stuff like that.
Could have a little bump on the bottom.
Yeah, look like we didn't know what we were doing. So that's how we make a number 5. And again, if you take, so you can set that right here. Let me set that here. That's how we make a number 5. If you look in the back of the table, you know, there's a number 3 and stuff like that. So now I want to talk to you, now that we've talked about aluminum rod, I want to talk to you briefly about PVC, because I think PVC is a medium that a lot of people have more access to than aluminum rod. Again, you can get it in any home supply company. Our home improvement, not home supply, I guess, home improvement store, and that's PVC. PVC. Want to talk about grids first?
You can do PVCs.
Okay. We're gonna, so talking about PVC and stuff like that, there's multiple ways to get PVC to be pliable. You can cap it and then put boiling water in it, which will heat up the PVC. You got to cap both ends. Don't cap one side and then have the hot boiling water pour out the other end.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't call Dave if you do that. Cap it and do it. I don't particularly like the boiling water idea because that's scalding, and if there's a mistake, it definitely can do some damage. Another alternative that I know works really well that a lot of people do, I do think it's almost kind of, jinky, is the same is heating up sand. If you heat up sand in an oven for like 45 minutes at 450 degrees, and then you cap this and you pour the sand in one side, sure, a little bit of sand may fall on you and it may tingle, burn a little. I don't know. Still hinky.
It doesn't sound like a fun idea.
It's still creepy. And then you cap it, it becomes pliable, and then once the sand or the boiling water cools down, the pipe will hold its rigidity and go back to its original shape. You can use heat guns. I've done that in the past if I needed to do something fast or if I needed to get a tight bend really quick. I've used heat guns. They make what they call oven boxes to heat up whole sticks.
That's how we used to do it all the time.
That's how we used to do it. They're extremely expensive. So we don't do that anymore. There's also PVC blankets that you can use. The item we use now is the PVC Bend It. Some people have heard us mention this product and stuff like that. We love it. We don't make money on this per se. It's just a good product. But if you go to pvcbendit.com, we recommend the A9, which I mean not A9, A10.
They just came out with that one.
Which they just came out with like 2 years ago. It'll heat up a whole stick of PVC and allow you to bend frame and stuff like that really, really fast. PVCbendit.com. Mike and them over there are great people. We always enjoy talking to Mike. Mike's really a nice guy. But so we're going to show you how PVC heats up and why this is such a great material. If you're needing to build a frame that's bigger than 4 feet but under 8 feet, I think PVC is a great tool.
Probably.
Yeah, 6 feet. I think it's great for sculpting because you can make repetitive templates that you can use over and over and over. So if you're making stuff like candy canes and stuff like that, you can definitely just crank out mass quantities of this. We built the keyhole at Float 2 years ago.
Last year.
Last year?
2 years ago.
I don't know. One of the floats, we built a keyhole where we had to repeatedly make a keyhole. I think there were like 12 of them that we had to make, and it was ginormous. And so to repetitively do it, we cut out one template out of foam core and they just made a bunch of holes. It was an impressive feat to see the frame. It was just a keyhole when you walked through it, but the frame was spectacular. So safety first. We always have to wear gloves and stuff like that. This does heat up the pipe. It heats it up to over 200 degrees, which will burn. So you want to be sure that you have protective gloves and stuff like that. These are from Ironclad. It's a little shout out to my buddy there, Mackie, over at Ironclad. They make tremendous gloves, but just like anything, they ain't cheap. So we're going to heat this. So you can get away with just cheap, leather garden gloves. Actually, let me stop and rephrase that. In the pack from PVC, they give you gloves.
Oven mitts.
They give you oven gloves that are silicone heat resistant and stuff like that. And they give you a timer. They give you everything you need to do what you need to do. So you don't even have to buy gloves. I just prefer my gloves. So I'm going to put this on. We have about a minute at this point, 2 minutes for it to heat up.
On the end of before he puts it in there, on the end of the pipe, we put these little couplings on the end. You definitely want to do that whenever you stick it in. It keeps the ends of the PVC when it heats up from flaring, because if it flares, then you won't be able to put your couplings together. So definitely always put couplings or something on the end. It doesn't have to be a coupling. You can't do a cap, but because the PVC bend, it won't slide through it. But it has to be, a T or something like this, so that it keeps that end from flaring, and you won't be able, so you can connect them together later.
Let's if we can, let's get the camera. There we go. There it is. This is a short 3-foot PVC bend it, not the 10-foot because we don't need it for the class. Basically, we slide it in to the sleeve. Oh, let's do this. I'm gonna cheat. I apologize. This is what the PVC bend looks like, and this whole thing is an element that heats up and stuff like that. You can see how it's discolored and stuff like that. It literally would get up to 500-600 degrees and stuff like that. We don't need that for the piping and stuff like that, but it comes with this insulation that keeps you from burning down your house. So be sure that you put this inside the insulation, the protective sleeve, and then you just slide your PVC through this. And then we're going to go right there. Amanda's going to hit the timer, and that gives us about 2 minutes. 2 minutes to answer questions. If anybody has any, Nix, anybody got a question? Yes, you can use letters the same way you do table numbers. Can we do did we ask the question or did they hear them? Can we do letters the same as we do table numbers? Yes. You're going to have to, certain letters like M and W
and
A, you're going to have to expand a little bit where it comes into at a point. But those are easy to compensate for, but mostly everything else works exactly the same.
And since you blow balloons bigger, or since you blow balloons before the event, would you blow them bigger to accomplish?
Air in, air out.
The question was, do we overblow our balloons to accommodate shrinkage before our events? No, we don't. It's air on the inside, air on the outside. The shrinkage by the time we use them is very minimal.
Correct. It's not like helium, and it's very minimal and stuff like that. Now, we do in our shop use Air Force 4s and then the Air Force Legenda to inflate and use sizing templates to
We
size down all our balloons.
Yeah, we overstretch, we inflate and overstretch all of our latex balloons and then size them down to where we want them to be. So they're more pliable, we get the nice round shapes.
Correct.
And it holds up better.
Correct. Okay. We got about 25 seconds. Another question, Nick?
How do you keep the numbers from? How do you? Where to go?
Nick, you had one job.
And Nick is one of our very helpful employees in the background over there behind the camera.
How do you prevent the number to flip sides inside the base?
How to keep it from tipping is the question.
We'll come back to that question in just a minute. Our timer just went off.
So if we go, we're down on this camera here. Okay. Let's give it another few seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have 20 minutes.
20 minutes. We're
Okay.
we're good.
Okay.
So let me answer the question, then we'll pull it out. So I'm assuming the question is, how do we keep it from tipping? Remember, we had the two pipes that went down like this. We had the two pipes that went down into the shaft.
There you go.
That keeps it from tipping because we had that cross support here. So these two pieces that went into the base hold themselves, and this bridge between helps support the whole thing from, as you can see.
And I don't know if this helps the question too. There's the two pieces that went down, and then we taped an additional piece. So that was basically the diameter of the inside of the pipe. So that helped make it thick in there so it doesn't rock back and forth.
Correct. Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense? Sure. Like they can hear me.
Well, they can hear you.
So when we pull PVC out and we keep the front camera here, this is what heating up PVC does. As you can see, it's completely pliable. I can make it into any shape I want. What we do is we'll typically make a frame or a stencil, and then we will clip this pipe.
Where do you want to go?
I'll go here. We'll clip it with just simple $1, clips to get whatever shape we want. And then after a minute, it will dry and we can make the whole shape. So after a minute, this will dry and then it'll be just as rigid as it was before. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, because we are running on time on camera, I'm not going to show this one drying just because I want to be sure I answer any questions. So we're going to take this up. It takes literally a minute for it to dry, and we'll show that at the end of the class. I'm going to do it this way just so you can see. I'll put two clips here so it can't bend. But when we make numbers and we make PVC, we use, this is, there we go. This is our number 5 out of PVC. And you can see how it clips right here. So if we were heating up this pipe, this would be this here. So this would have just, when it came out of the PVC, bend it. We just would have clipped it, let it cool, and then as soon as it was cool, let's go back to the, let's see. There we go. As you can see, so this would have had clips all along it, and then this is an elbow and an elbow, so you can see how we made the number 5 out of PVC. The nice thing about PVC is that once it's cool, it has that original rigidity that it had when it first started. And then you can take a bigger studio. You can take the same base system and set it in that to hold up your 5 and stuff like that. Man, it keeps saying I do it backwards. This one's a little callywhopped. You can see right here something's funny. But once you pack balloons in it, it would either heat up, or you could take a heat gun and heat up this side right here and then just reheat it up to cool off. I mean, heat it up to where it's pliable in this spot. And then when it cooled, it would sit more up. But you can kind of see whatever crew member made this, got a little overzealous.
Yep. That's okay. Again,
Yeah.
once you put balloons on stuff like this,
Yeah,
it'll
it'll tighten up once you put balloons, because
Correct.
the garland will help hold the shape of what you're putting it on some degree, not everything.
Correct.
You can't be like this and then ask me why the 5 doesn't do it. But again, a simple heat gun, or back in the PVC bend it again, would heat this up to where you could fix that if you had to. And that's another nice benefit of the PVC bend it, is that you can keep heating up pipe if you make a mistake and stuff like that. Okay? Any questions on that? Everybody understand?
So you want to go back to
Okay,
bigger?
if we can go to slide number 10.
You got about 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
till
Slide,
heating.
here we go. So here's the thing about that, as you see in that first picture on the left, that is our number template that we use every single day. Slide number 10. And so on this piece of paper, it's a grid. It's mapped out. And then if you see to the left of it, you see the gray and black lines. That's the floor of our warehouse. We use the same grid system there as we do on the foam template we showed you all how to do today. And the thing about that is this is, using grids to map out how you build your frames. One, it builds consistency.
Yep.
Two, it allows you to, it's repetitive. You can do it over and over.
And you can scale. Like he does it, you can go from 4 feet to 5 to 6 to 8 to 10 feet. Scalable by using the grid.
Now, this form that we're used in this class, this one that I have here that's white, black, and red, do not use this one to scale 8 to 10 feet.
No.
It's going to be...
It won't fit in your van.
It won't fit in your van. And again, stuff like the 5 and stuff where they're too big, but the concept's still the same. It's not that this recipe won't work for taller numbers. We've just found another recipe where the large numbers work better to fit in the vehicles and stuff like that. But if a customer needs a 5 foot or a 3 foot or something like that, any of those grids, a grid system of any kind work. If we can see slide number 11, I'll give you an example of what we're talking about on like the grid. So this grid that you see right here is the grid that's outside, and you can see the number 8. It's only about 3 feet across.
Yeah.
And so the reason for that is if we were to scale it the same as we scale our table numbers, then it would be ginormously across and would fit in nothing. So we found that, based on the way we do yard numbers and stuff like that, we had to account for our yard numbers differently.
Yeah.
But
and
the concept is the same.
measure your vehicle, measure your van, what your opening is, so you know what size you can make your stuff to.
Yeah,
and account for your balloons being on the outside. So if you're only 40 inches, you need to make your frame
If you're
smaller.
putting 6-inch balloons on it, you need to come in 12 inches on your frame.
Correct.
Also remember, when you're building frame of any kind, that you can get it into a door. Most outside commercial doors are 36 inches. So you don't want to build a sculpture that can't fit through a door. I don't say this because I'm just really smart. I say this because we've done it. We've built things in the past. We built an octopus, and it didn't fit. It was beautiful. It's beautiful. And it didn't fit out our door. So we had to take that octopus and smash it down. Thank God we used pliable metal instead of conduit to make that octopus. We smashed it down. We hemorrhaged his brain. It was oozing out his ears.
Yeah.
And then when we got back to the location, we got on site, we pulled it apart. Thankfully, the customer didn't see that madness, and they loved it. So be sure you pay attention to when you're making frame, that it fits in and outdoors and stuff like that. Again, most commercial doors are 36 inches. So anything like that, residential can go, front doors are typically 36, but you can get some inside doors that are 26, 28 inches, and if you build your thing 29, 20, 30 inches, it's not going to work. So I did want to show this pipe. Now it's been a little over a minute, I guess, us babbling.
Yep.
This is that same pipe, and you can see it's going to go back to that shape that I made it and stuff like that. But you can see it's pliable. It's still even a little warm and stuff like that, but it won't lose this shape. Okay. And then let's see. So if we can see slide 13.
Hold on.
Well-
What is Ryan's people?
Yeah, that's fine. That was Ryan, if anybody was wondering what was going on.
Come here. Ryan, come say hi.
Ryan came in to visit us. So again, this is all totally
Come see
professional,
Mommy.
isn't it? This
You
is
say hi to everybody. Oh,
there's
say hi.
say spit on everybody. That's
Oh.
baby Ryan. He's 4 months old?
5
months old. Oh.
5 months. You gonna say hi? You're
He's
looking
like,
at all the stuff Daddy and
no.
Mommy are doing.
He's like, look at all the toys. Let me grab the
Yeah.
bender. Say bye-bye.
We love you.
Say bye-bye. All right, so slide 13. Let's talk about what you can do and stuff like that with something as simple as a table number. Table numbers, can be upscaled to where you can add in and increase profit points and stuff like that. Just because it's smaller doesn't mean that it should be less expensive or anything like that. You can add on, you can theme them out, you can definitely still service a client. So if somebody calls you and they're looking for something and you don't provide that service, but you can give them an alternative, it doesn't mean you're making less money. You can still upscale it. You can still theme it out. You can still increase your sales. Let's see slide 14. Now, once you start getting more comfortable with aluminum rod and stuff like that, you can make other things. It's not limited to just numbers and letters and stuff like that. You can start using aluminum rod or any pliable metal to make, small frames like the clown and stuff like that, centerpieces. You can see those 3 different pieces on the number 13 and then the star centerpieces. This is just using aluminum rod in a very simple method.
The fun thing about the one on the 13 is we have a center. We took our center pole is just a squiggle, like we made a circle out of the aluminum rod to make it that. So it just adds another dimension to it.
And on that, not that I'm not totally unprepared or unprofessional, you can do the same thing with PVC. You can see PVC can be made into a circle, pretty simple and stuff like that. Just threw that in there.
That's fine. I totally forgot about that.
Dave's totally a professional. Just threw that in there. So you can definitely use it to make things that are unique and different, that separate you from everybody else after the coronavirus comes through, because that's really what people are going to start looking for. Slide 15. If you're, one thing you don't want to do is tell customers, I can't do something. We find it more times. I think we probably talk to more people than any. I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything or be arrogant, but I think we talk to a zillion people.
We talk to a ton of people.
Right.
We have a staff of like 5 in the office that just are on the phone constantly.
Right. And when someone calls, they don't know what they want. They think they know, but they'll sit there and they'll call up and they'll say, I want this. And if it's something a service we don't provide or something they don't fit in their budget, we always make alternatives. So if you're not comfortable sitting around bending, aluminum rod, if you're not comfortable with heating up PVC one way or another in your home, then, give alternatives like here in the picture. All these megafoils are alternatives we've given to other people. All the price points stay up high pretty much, as you're giving them, things to look at. It doesn't have to be a table number to fit, it doesn't have to be a giant yard number to work. Qualatex makes some great foils and they just take a licking outside. I don't really know why.
No,
but
we do the megafoils outside on copper columns and stuff like that all the time.
Right.
It's a great alternative, especially people that don't want to pay for the big yard numbers.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So so always look at alternatives. And once you're comfortable with selling alternatives, once you're comfortable with selling, working with pliable metals, then look at what you possibly can do in slide 16 as far as alternatives, scaling up into a larger platform and a larger element. Right now the coronavirus is going on. Slide 16. You can see the first slide. What's going to happen in 9 months? Everybody's locked down, so guess what's going to pop up?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see a lot of little baby Ryans walking around in 9 months. And the nice thing about that is, for us as an industry, if you can get that client early on, if you can do stuff like, think about it, when it comes to babies, you've got baby announcements, gender reveals,
Sips and
Cs. You have when the baby comes home. You have first birthdays. There's 5 or 6 right there just And
before they're even born.
before we even got to age 2.
Yep.
You know, and that and with great customer service and the ability to, you know, to sell alternatives to clients and stuff like that, that's what's going to land you clients and keep them with you year after year after year. And once you've landed a baby, guess what? We got all the way till college to do stuff. You know, now on girls, I got typically through college. Boys, I get to about 13, and then they're kind of done for a while.
Yeah.
Until they get a wife, and then we start the whole, you know, the wedding announcements, the wedding parties, stuff like that. As you can see, like the PVC, the center one of the DNA, that is just PVC, and that was like 17 feet tall.
Huge.
Yeah, and then the cactus is just PVC, and there's actually no bending in that. That cactus is just PVC with connectors. You know, the 90s and stuff that we used before. It's got 1 T and 2 elbows, so it doesn't have to be complicated.
No.
You know, to work with stuff like that. You know,
it's like a big giant box of Tinker Toys. Just keep moving things around and playing, and however you want to do it.
Yeah. We have 4 minutes. 4 minutes, and then, you know, this is, if we look at slide 17, if you get really comfortable with it and you can start blending components like PVC and aluminum rod and other things like that, these 3 pictures show what we've done with all pliable metals and stuff like that. This is examples where we've manipulated PVC, we've manipulated aluminum rod.
We've added chicken wire into it,
right?
So you can start getting those details.
And this goes back to what we were saying at the beginning. Learn your fundamentals, and it'll allow you to grow and stuff like that. Be cautious not to be like some people that want to just jump into the big stuff, because the potential of under delivering to a client is huge. And once you start building a reputation of not providing a service, a good quality service, you're going to find it harder and harder to retain clients and stuff like that. That's the biggest key. One of the biggest keys everyone goes, how do you get the volume of sales you do? We give exceptional quality, you know, customer service, and we use the very best product. I know that's a plug, but you know, we don't skimp. We do not try to jump on anything. We try to give the very best product, the very best service, so that our customers have the very best experiences and stuff like that. So if I could end on this, and then we'll try to answer a question or two. If you start working with stuff, you're going to find customers will jump on you and say, I don't need something 8 feet. Can I get 6 feet? Or I don't need it to be 4 feet. Can I get it to 3 feet? Remember, smaller never means cheaper. It's the same amount of work to build a smaller piece.
Same amount number of balloons. We typically find there's the same number of balloons in a 4'3" as there is a 10'3". They're just littler.
They're littler, which actually is more work. And the truth of it is, if we actually make smaller frame, Amanda will attest to this, girls in the office will tell you, we actually charge more. Because what I want as a company is to have consistent frame. I want frame that is, you know, 4 foot or, you know, 6 foot or 8, you know, 10 foot. I don't want oddball 5.5 foot frame. Because I won't be able to match it with something else. So keep our frames. Again, in our shop, 4 and 10 is what we have. So any questions?
We've had people where can you buy the brick?
Home Depot, Lowe's.
6 inches.
Where can you buy the bricks? We got to remember they can't hear Nick.
Oh yeah.
Where do you buy the bricks? Home Depot or Lowe's? Again, we're very lazy.
Walmart even has the 12 by 12s.
Yes.
Is there a way to tell, or do you have a preference and the aluminum rod?
Is there a preference? If there's a preference between the PVC and the aluminum rod on frame, if I'm doing table numbers, I like the aluminum rod because I have less setup to work with it. Anybody can grab a template in the shop and bend frame without having to set anything up. They don't have to bend it up. They don't have to wait for heat up or anything like that. And I find personally it easier to work with.
Yeah.
If I'm sculpting,
I think the PVC bendit has its place and its purpose. You know, if you're doing a lot of the same, get the PVC bendit out because you're going to be able to be more consistent and faster.
That's a good point.
Whereas the aluminum rod, if you're just doing 1 or 2 here or there, then that's quicker because that's all you need. But if you're doing a lot, then definitely the PVC bendit.
And again, when you're building anything, do your grid, do your drawing on the ground if you don't have an ability. so that you can keep referencing it to make sure that you're staying on pace. Don't just start bending and go, that's good enough, because then you're going to get one of those pieces. We've all seen them. We've scrolled through Facebook and we said, oh.
Yeah.
What else you got, Nick?
Do we have any more time?
Someone asked about angled base.
Angled base. I don't know what that is.
Like if they wanted to make a base.
We don't typically do that. We just bend our frame.
Yeah, we'll bend our frame, not our base. Because again, I don't know if I'm going to get that base off, and I don't want a one-off base in the shop. So I think we're kind of getting close to the end. Until I see Keith or Dom, we'll just try to answer questions as long as we can. Oh, they said wrap it up. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today. We hope it was of value. We appreciate you all tuning in. I mean, it means the world to us that you were kind enough to do it.
And if you have questions, you can always find Dave, especially Dave or I, on Facebook, and we can definitely help in the future.
Yes, please. If you have questions, shoot us a message. Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye.
Where's Dom and them? How are we
I was too engrossed. I didn't turn anyone's microphones on.
That was absolutely fantastic. Dom was saying he was too engrossed. That one was it was a bit technically challenged for us as well, because we were having to control all the different cameras and the presentations and everything else.
Now, new guest on as well.
While getting the new guest on.
Bring in our new guest background ready as well, please?
And also trying to take as much into the class as well, because this is, I mean, come on, guys, that was absolutely packed full of gold, pure gold. So please show your appreciation in the chat to the wonderful David and Amanda Mahoney. Thank you very much for donating their time, free of charge again for you guys.
Yes, thank you very much, guys. And hi, Ryan.
And
Hashtag
also, yeah. And also, Nick working hard in the background as well. Really appreciate all your efforts, buddy.